because you can handle the truth.
Welcome, welcome, Resurrect the Republic radio show. Tonight, the topic will be the case of United States versus FBI agent ASTARITA. The jury has rendered its verdict. It's come in not guilty. Tonight I'm going to be joined with Rudy and Erin Davis. As you all know, I feel some kind of way about this one, so I'm going to share, when we start off here, the most recent report afterwards from Maxine Bernstein of the Oregonian. A federal jury Friday returned not guilty verdicts in the trial of FBI agent W. Joseph ASTARITA, accused of lying to conceal that he fired 2 shots at the truck of Refuge occupation spokesman Robert Lavoy Finicum in January 2016. The jury of 9 men and 3 women deliberated for about 6 hours over 2 days in 3-week trial in Portland before U.S. District Judge Robert E. Jones. They acquitted ASTARITA on 2 counts of making a false statement and 1 count of obstruction of justice. ASTARITA, 41, a member of the FBI's elite hostage rescue team, looked straight ahead but squeezed the hands of defense lawyers Robert Carey and Megan Ferguson, sitting on either side of him as the court clerk read the verdicts about 2:45 p.m. Once the jury left, ASTARITA's attorneys took turns enveloping him in strong hugs. The team of prosecutors quietly filed out of the courtroom. Verdict marks the latest in a series of daunting losses for prosecutors trying people involved in the occupation of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, though this case targeted a federal agent who has been working on the government's side of the confrontation. ASTARITA had been on the hostage rescue team for 8 months at the time of the January 26, 2016 shooting at a highway roadblock in eastern Oregon. He spent hours on the witness stand over 2 days and testified that he's never fired his weapon in the line of duty. During his 13 years with the FBI, he claimed he never fired. He said he didn't independently recall where he was standing at the time of the disputed shots and said he heard no gunshots that day, though investigators found 8 were fired at the roadblock. He said he was wearing a hearing protection headset attached to his helmet. So you mean to tell me they wear hearing protection with no mics in it, with nothing from the ground, so they don't even know who's shooting from where? That's about as much sense as I don't know what. But anyway, he said he was wearing his headset. I had no indication I had fired, he said. I didn't hear it, feel it, see it that day, he told jurors this week. Very strange statement, I think, but okay, moving on. With ASTARITA's acquittal, the mystery remains as who fired twice after Finicum swerved into a snowbank and came to a stop, I might add, that wasn't added, at the roadblock on US 395 in Harney County, stepped from his truck with his hands in the air and shouted, "Go ahead and shoot me." 1 shot hit the roof of the truck cab and shattered the rear driver's side window, and the other missed entirely. So he was fired upon with his hands in the air, and not a threat. This much has been established. This can't be denied. So both of these shots were distinctly audible on the video captured by rear seat passenger Shauna Cox. Shauna, thank you for that recording, because I do believe that they were ordered not to wear body cams that day, which is a whole nother problem in and of itself. I'm ad-libbing. Let me get back to the Oregonian article. Moments later, 2 state police SWAT officers shot and killed Finicum after he had walked away from his truck and was seen reaching into his inner left jacket pocket. I presume he was shot either by a rubber bullet, something. Anything could have made him reach to his side. That's my own, that's how I see it. Where police said he had a loaded 9mm Ruger pistol, although he had promised the Grant County Sheriff that they would be going at least into the meeting unarmed. Matting again. The fatal shooting was ruled justified by the Deschutes County District Attorney. How you can justify a shooting when shots are fired at somebody when they are not a physical threat first, I don't know. But, hey, that's the government investigating the government in that case. Defense lawyers Robert Carey, based in Washington, D.C., important defense lawyer David Angeli, called ASTARITA a hero who puts his life on the line every day for his country. And folks, if he didn't take the shot, he didn't take the shot. But that also leaves the question, who did? I am adding into this a little bit. We have to keep our heads about us for Jeanette and for her family and for everyone involved here. We believe, at least I do, in the Republic form of government, although we know that it's wildly out of control. It's going to take a lot of work to get it back there. We're hoping it doesn't get any worse than it's already gotten. But in a Republic form of government, the jury rendered its decision. So on to the article. We are grateful to the men and women of the jury who saw through the case that never should have been brought. They said in a statement, Joe ASTARITA is innocent, and it was our privilege and honor to represent him. ASTARITA remains on the FBI's hostage rescue team and has continued to work since he was indicted a year ago. He was never placed on leave. That's interesting, you know. Oregon U.S. Attorney Billy J. Williams thanked the jury for its consideration. Let me say something about U.S. Attorney Billy J. Williams. From a comment in the Oregonian from W. Yeast. What a surprise. Billy Williams loses yet another case. He must have the worst batting average of any U.S. attorney. In this case, though, I'm glad he lost. This is what the commenter said. So this is not a supporter of the Finicums or of the standoff who is saying that he apparently has knowledge. I don't have confirmation of this. I will be looking into it, but I find it very interesting that they put what's alleged to be a losing prosecutor with a history of losses on the case, especially when the government usually 95% or more of its cases, they bring back a guilty verdict. So anyway, back to the article. We strongly believe this case needed to be brought before the court and decided by a jury. Williams said in a statement, our system of justice relies on the absolute integrity of law enforcement officials at all levels of government. Our system of justice, he says, let me say that again, relies on the absolute integrity of law enforcement officials at all levels of government. Well, if that's what it relies on, woo! Okay, anyway, moving on. Michael Lee Horowitz, U.S. Department of Justice Inspector General, thanked the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office and the Major Incident Team for its assistance in investigating ASTARITA. Horowitz said in his office respects the jury's verdict. We will continue to investigate allegations of misconduct by Department of Justice employees to ensure the integrity of our law enforcement components, he said. ASTARITA was among the hosts of FBI agents and state police officers trying to arrest leaders of the armed Refuge takeover as they drove off the bird sanctuary to a community meeting 100 miles away, where the sheriff, by the way, was waiting for him. The Bureau faced sustained scrutiny during the occupation as critics anxiously watched to see its response would mirror the deadly sieges in Waco, Texas, and Ruby Ridge in Idaho. And others questioned why law enforcement hadn't moved in more rapidly. I guess these authoritarians, they really would have loved to have been bombed and burnt out, allowing the occupiers to freely come and go from the Refuge for weeks. I guess they all should have just been murdered. We all should have been killed, that's all, to some of these authoritarians. I just, you know, wow. During ASTARITA's trial, defense lawyers pointed out repeatedly that none of the more than 40 witnesses who testified saw or heard ASTARITA actually fire his rifle, and prosecutors presented no physical evidence that definitively tied him to the disputed shots. None of them heard this guy fire his rifle, but of course, none of them know who fired the shots then. The prosecution relied largely, the article says, on circumstantial evidence and forensic analysis, pinpointing ASTARITA as the only officer who could have fired the two shots based on their expert Michael Haig determination of the bullet's path and ASTARITA's location at the time the shots rang out. And keep in mind, if it weren't for Shauna Cox and that cell phone video, this may not have ever seen the light of day. An aerial FBI video also caught ASTARITA standing with his rifle shouldered beside the open passenger door of a state police truck in the middle of the highway roadblock when the shots occurred, prosecutors said. So, just being critical about this, he's standing there with his rifle shouldered when Lavoie came down the road and swerved into the snowbank. I don't think that really sounds reasonable. But that's just me. ASTARITA's lawyers argued that the video image was too fuzzy to conclude much of anything. They identified the most, and if they were all wearing body cams, we wouldn't have that problem. They identified the most likely shooter as one of the state police's SWAT officers, identified in court only as Officer 1 due to security concerns. We all know how that went. Officer 1 recklessly let loose with 3 rounds into Finicum's truck as it barreled towards the roadblock, even though he acknowledged that he couldn't see the driver or the passengers, Angeli said. So this truck was fired on, nobody was in danger, and that other nitwit guy that tried jumping out in front of Lavoie swerved to avoid him, saved his life. Yeah, no mention of that, though. Officer 1 then rushed into the snowbank as Finicum walked away from his truck without using any cover and fired 2 shots into his back, Angeli said. Angeli also accused Officer 1 of lying on the witness stand when he claimed he told investigators last year that he was startled by a loud noise to his right as he was moving from east to west across US 395 at the time of the disputed shots. Angeli reminded jurors that no investigator heard that claim until Officer 1 shared that with prosecutors a month before the trial, as the lead case agent, Deschutes County Sheriff's Detective Ron Brown, confirmed on the witness stand. 2.5 years after the shooting, no one has acknowledged taking the 2 shots in question, and investigators recovered only 2 shell casings of 8 shots fired at the roadblock. Government prosecutors also failed to convict the leaders of the Refuge occupation, including Erin Bundy and his brother Ryan Bundy, after a lengthy trial in 2016, in a decision that emboldened like-minded activists fighting federal ownership of public land. Not guilty. They all were found not guilty, but this man was gunned down. ASTARITA remains on the job, but may now face an internal FBI administrative review of the allegations. Well, we all know where that'll go. In a pretrial hearing, his lawyer said ASTARITA had exhausted his life savings on the experts hired for the case. If he truly did not do this, I'm sorry about that. Deschutes County Sheriff L. Shane Nelson, whose agency led the initial inquiry into the disputed shots, said he trusts the criminal justice process, but the verdicts don't alter his beliefs or earlier statements. When ASTARITA was indicted in June 2017, Nelson credited his investigators for their tenaciousness and said he was disappointed and angry that the FBI agents' alleged deceit and actions damaged the integrity of the entire law enforcement profession. The Deschutes County Sheriff's Office and Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General did our jobs to investigate this thoroughly, he said Friday. I support and trust Inspector General Michael Horowitz as he reviews his case administratively to identify any areas of improvement that will identify mistakes made by the FBI hostage rescue team, in this case, and increase transparency for law enforcement. Nelson also said he didn't buy the argument by ASTARITA's defense that an Oregon State Police SWAT officer took the disputed shots. There is one thing I am sure of, and that is no one from the Oregon State Police fired those 2 shots, he said. So it's a he said, she said in this case, apparently. Finicum's wife, Jeanette, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the FBI and state police in the fatal shooting of her husband, our friend Lavoie, a rancher from Arizona who was easily recognizable during the occupation, wearing earmuffs under his cowboy hat, and shown sitting at the refuge entrance, a gun across his lap, a blue tarp over his head to keep warm on frigid evenings. She sat through most of the trial, taking notes to prepare her own civil case. She said she felt prosecutors did not do a robust enough job of questioning ASTARITA and his colleagues on the hostage rescue team, who echoed that they didn't hear gunshots that day and that all were doing a standard sensitive items check for gear and remnants of flashbang grenades at the shooting scene, yet all of these casings disappeared. That's my ad lib. So many questions not asked and so many questions not answered, Jeanette Finicum said, but she also thanked the jury for its service. Brian Levin, a former New York police officer who has worked closely with the FBI and now director of California State University's Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism, sounds like a little Southern Poverty Law Center spinoff for law enforcement officers, said the verdict plays into the narrative that there is some kind of government cover-up, although alleged cover-up wasn't even proven in court by prosecutors. Didn't even need to be proven by prosecutors. Somebody took shots, nobody's claiming it, and the evidence disappeared. This verdict doesn't play into that, the facts do. But this is, oh, God, Rudy, help me here, will you? Oh.
I tell you, Tom, You know, I'm thinking about this FBI, and I think they have become institutionalized evil. They simply don't care. I mean, if it had been one of them that had been killed, they certainly would not have treated the situation in the way that they did. You know, the FBI can keep track of all of our emails, our phone calls, our whereabouts. Snowden said they're tracking all of us in, you know, in America, but yet they can't keep track and they can't figure out who shot Lavoy Finicum. I mean, there is something terribly wrong with this institution called the FBI, and I have been calling for it to be abolished and just dismantle the FBI. If anybody works for the FBI, they should be ashamed of themselves and the organization that they work for.
Yeah, well, you know, the only aspect of the FBI that, you know, I was talking with a couple of my friends the other day, and, you know, I listened to an interview that Clive and Bundy did when he was being called anti-government. I'm compiling evidence that I'm going to turn over to them. I'm sure most of them have seen a lot of this, but this whole narrative, these labels that they're using, anti-government, which is actually that's in the Patriot Act. You know, you call somebody anti-government who's standing with the Constitution in their pocket. It's an obvious smear. I mean, how is a constitutional Republican? Oh God!
The Bible says good will be called evil and evil will be called good. I think the FBI has been trained to see, you know, Christian patriots as subhuman. I mean, they just don't care that a man lost his life, and they won't. If it had been one of them that had been killed that day, do you think they would have done the investigation a little differently? And the fact they didn't have body cams and they didn't, they just simply don't care that Lavoy died, and they don't. That's not a concern to them. They see him as subhuman. They see him as it's not an important thing for them, and it's another Christian patriot that's died, and they simply don't care. And I'm telling you, the FBI has become institutionalized evil as far as I'm concerned. They are an enemy of the people, and they're the ones who should be held accountable. And it's terrible what's happened in this case, Tom. It really is absolutely just a travesty of justice, and it's a sad day in America.
Well, I'm looking at this article from February 2nd, 2018, also from the Oregonian. I have to give Maxine Bernstein some credit, although there were some points in there that I had to throw in for myself. You know, for a liberal reporter, she's stuck as close to the facts as any other liberal reporter, far more than any other liberal reporter I've ever seen. I have to give her just a little bit of credit there. But
the fact is, Tom, she stuck close to the facts, but yet the fact of the matter remains, nobody's going to jail, nobody's held accountable. She wrote a close to fair article, but nobody's ever held accountable, and we have Lavoy Finicum still dead, and yet nobody's going to be held accountable. I think you and I both agree that this situation has gotten completely out of control, and somebody needs to be held accountable for the death of Lavoy Finicum, and I think it's just a very sad situation.
There is still the civil trial, but you know, that's monetary. That's the taxpayers end up paying for these mistakes. So, but out of this, and the real point of the matter, the real meat and potatoes of this that I think is important, and what's probably going to lose them the civil case, is that the FBI told state police not to. They told them. Who is the FBI, first of all, to tell a state law enforcement agency not to do something that is standard operating procedure? But the FBI told state police not to wear body cameras for this stop. Why would you not want to record evidence if you have nothing to hide? This is what we hear from the government all the time.
That's not only conspiracy to murder, that is murder.
I would have to agree with you. We're going to take a break, folks. Resurrect the Republic. Tom Lacovara-Stewart, Rudy and Erin Davis. U.S. v. ASTARITA. Not guilty. Good Lord. Let me tell you how it's going to work, kids.
You know, I can't say enough negative things about the FBI. There's been so many books that we have come across and incidences where they have become an enemy of the American people. If you look at how they use informants, if you look at how they incentivize informants to set up people and to convict people, and they work hand in hand with the Department of Justice, they leak information to the media to demonize their targets. not only with Lavoie and not only with Christian patriots, but they do this with senators. Senator Ted Stevens. There's a book called The Terror Factory, exposing the FBI's manufactured war on terrorism. It shows the tricks that they use, and you know, I've had a very bad perception and a very bad just perspective of the FBI for a long time, and they really need to be abolished. And for some of you, that's a radical thought for me to even say that the FBI needs to be abolished. The fruit of the FBI and what they're doing to the American people is pure evil. And there's no, the whole, you say a few bad apples spoil the whole bunch. The whole bunch has been spoiled. And you saw, who's that guy, Peter Strunk? Look at his testimony. He's supposedly one of the top dogs of the FBI. Look at his testimony before Congress. And you don't think that filters down throughout the entire organization? They are trained to look at you as the enemy. They are trained to look at you as a dissident and anti-American, anti-government, extremist radical. And when you lose your life, like Lavoie Finicum has lost his life, they don't care, right? That's not any of their concern. Their concern is to protect them and their own and to advance their own careers. And the FBI needs to be abolished, eradicated. If you work for the FBI, you need to become a whistleblower, and you need to realize how evil the FBI is. And you say, well, there's other organizations that are evil too. I know, I agree. But we got to start somewhere, right? Let's start with the FBI. Let's get rid of them. Fold them into the U.S. Marshal Service, or let's figure something out. Let's figure something out, or take away their guns, and let's make them, you know, let's make them an investigative service. But don't give them the power to go out and shoot people anymore. The FBI, look at what they did at Waco. There was a recent documentary series of how their involvement was at Waco. If it doesn't make you mad what happened at Waco, if it doesn't make you mad what happened at Ruby Ridge, if it doesn't make you mad how the U.S. Marshals handled Gordon Call, there's something wrong. And they have set themselves up as overlords of society. Do you think do you want a comfortable prison with overlords of the FBI that tells you what to do and how to act and where your boundaries are? You can't have freedom of speech outside this envelope. If you go outside this envelope, we're going to arrest you, we're going to stick the FBI on you, or we're going to stick the IRS on you. You'll be sent to court, and you will never get a fair day in trial. The DOJ will see to that. So, looks like we're coming back from break. Tom Lacovara-Stewart is covering the case of Lavoie Finicum and the verdict today.
Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara-Stewart. I'm on with Rudy and Erin Davis, who I called last moment to bring me in. I was actually working on a presentation all day that had a lot to do with the subject matter. And prior to the broadcast, I went to upload it, and the whole computer system crashed, and I had all sorts of interesting technical issues. So I do have a new computer on the way, being shipped. So hopefully that will remedy some of our technical issues we've been having for the past couple weeks. So I apologize for that. Yeah, I think, Rudy, the very interesting point about that body cam, I think that is going to really kind of sink the ship. What could be the possible justification for the FBI to command the state police not to have body cameras on them, and what those body cameras would have absolutely given us in this situation? We would have known where those shots came from. That would have been clear as day. Also, they were cleared of any wrongdoing, but would they have been cleared of any wrongdoing if they had body cameras because of this fuzzy video?
You know what it reminds me of, Tom, is it reminds me of, I'm sure you remember what the FBI ATF situation was called at Waco. It was called Operation Showtime. And my friend, the Texas Deacon, informed me that there was one lady within the ATF, and her only job, was to turn on the cameras when the agents arrived at the front door of the compound when the shootout began, and her response was, I forgot to turn on the camera. You know, so isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
It points directly to premeditated murder if you look at it from a layman's standpoint.
Well, somebody's certainly involved in it. I it's been a while since I read that article. I did have it up. I don't know if you guys can pull that up. FBI orders Oregon State OSP not to wear body cams. It was it Bretzing. I don't know whether it was Bretzing who ordered that or not. But whoever ordered that, first of all, that right there. You know, I'm sorry. I can't get past that point. I can't get past that point.
No, I agree with you. It's unforgivable. There's no valid excuse. I'm sure they'll say something. These Department of Justice attorneys always come up with something that they can put in front of the jury during these kangaroo courts. But let's just look at it, you know, from, you know, just a regular perspective that any common sense would tell you. They didn't want the cameras on because they knew what was fixing to happen.
Yeah, we have a couple comments. David Seinberger, he says, is it our sins or their sins that put them over us? So it's a very good observation. I know where he's coming from. Valerie Stewart says, the FBI is working for a foreign monarch. It's time to bring human rights violations against them. State of Oregon 932-534-998. City of Portland, Oregon 054971197. This is the Oregon State DUNS number. Ricky, welcome to the show. We are live streaming, thanks to Rudy and Erin. We're live streaming on Facebook. You can go to my page or Rudy and Erin Davis's, either one of their pages, I guess, and pick up the live stream. And yes, Melissa, they are some kangaroo courts. Yeah, I'm seeing you there.
Well, hey, Tom, you know, regarding that question about is it our sins or their sins, I mean, you know, there was a blind man in the Bible, and they asked him, did this blind man sin, or did his parents sin, and, you know, why is he blind? And the Lord said that, you know, it's neither, that I reserved this situation just to show my glory. And so, you know, I don't think it's the Lord's plan that we are under subjection or submission to the overlords of the FBI who deem it appropriate to kill Lavoy Finicum, or I should use the word murder him rather than kill him. So I don't think it's the Lord's plan that we have to live under this submission to the overlords of the FBI. And we have authority, and we walk in this world as children of the light, and we should walk in that authority. And as long as we're giving glory to the Lord, I believe that we can beat this. And I don't believe that the Lord's plan is for us to live under their tyranny.
Well, you know, my other half here made an observation, and she said, and, you know, I don't want anybody to be critical on this because, you know, she's trying to critically think and analyze, and we're trying to give this to God. We're trying to give this to the Lord. But she did say, what if they're using this guy as a patsy? What if those shots didn't come from them? And what if there were people there that we don't even know about and none of us know about? What if there weren't? They were a little further out. One of the things that bothers me about these shots, even though he's claims to be an inexperienced FBI HRT team member, he was just on the team for so many months, you don't get on the HRT team and not be able to shoot. And these shots were wild. One of them was wild. One of them obviously missed its target. So two shots were fouls. And I have to wonder how far out, really, were those shots? And is there really more that we don't know? And like Jeanette said, there was a lot of questions that weren't asked by the prosecution. We'll be back after a few words from our sponsors, Resurrect from Public Truth Radio broadcast. Tom Lacovara-Stewart, Rudy, and Erin Davis.
You know, regarding the question about shots from people that, you know, we possibly don't know about, or, you know, that's certainly a possibility, and we should look at all possibilities. My only thought is, how many FBI agents did you have there, and how much resources do they have, and how much expertise do they have? And you can't tell me that they can't figure out how Lavoy Finicum was killed? I mean, you got to be kidding me. They know exactly how he's killed. And I just believe that they know, and they don't really care to you know, pin it on any particular person in their organization, because it's the issue of covering up. It's called the 9/11 cult. They cover up for one another, and they don't turn on one another. It's a brotherhood of cops. And when we die, they lie about it. You can look at the case of Jeffrey Winehouse. And, you know, the FBI that was there that day when Jeffrey Winehouse got shot, they did not, you know, go after the Missouri Highway Patrol that tried to kill Jeffrey Winehouse. And so that's the problem that we have, is that these law enforcement individuals cover up for their brothers even when they try to murder us or do murder us. And that's the problem as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. It's really bad. Really bad. Really, 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 really bad.
Yeah. What is, it's called the 9/11 cult of secrecy or something like that.
It's a satanic cult. It's really, really bad. But I have really good news. Jeff Winehouse visited with his family today. He got to see his 2 beautiful daughters and his son and his lovely wife.
Oh, Jeffrey Winehouse got a visit.
Yeah.
Oh, praise God.
Yay for Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I know that meant a lot to him. And tomorrow he has 2 more visitors lined up.
He hadn't had a visit in a long time, so that's great, especially from his family. I mean, I know other Matt Thompson visited him.
Yeah.
Right?
We're live with Rudy and Erin Davis, who are very nice, blessed to have them live streaming with us, regulars on Monday. I guess you guys will be back on Monday. I'm going to be, I have to travel back to Oregon this coming week, so we're going to be a little interesting on who's going to host and how, but I've talked to Lori and maybe Lori Anderson, and we can all try and make something happen there for you guys. I don't know, it's going to be a little rough next week.
Yeah. Sounds like
But with all the stuff you already have to do, and I don't know how anybody's going to do anymore. Oh my God. I don't know how you guys do. Oh, all those phone calls. Oh, Mrs. Dyer. Mrs. Dyer just popped in.
Oh, good. Yeah, we talked to her today. There's some good news with Charles Dyer. I'm sure she'll be able to, when it's appropriate timing, she'll be able to share. But Charles Dyer got some good news, so that's always good.
Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. We're going to do a little bit of devotional when we come back in, out of respect for all of the people that have stood in this case, and Jeanette Finicum especially. I have it's going to be a little short surprise for you guys, so don't tune out. Those of you who are on the live stream, don't tune out if you hear some music. We'll be coming right back. I'm going to be sharing just a little bit of a devotional that I start every morning of my day with a song from Clive and Bundy's daughter. Anyway, we're coming back in. Resurrect Republic, Truth Radio broadcast. Welcome back. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara-Stewart, here with Rudy and Erin Davis. And folks, what we were just talking about, we're going to continue talking about. There's going to be more in the show with Rudy and Erin. But we need to take a moment and give it to God. This is a song by Clive and Bundy's daughter, Hannah. Go ahead and roll that.
through the woods and forest glades I with shout of acclamation and take me home. What joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Praise Jesus, praise Jesus. That is Clive and Bundy's daughter, Hannah. What an amazing voice. I start my day every morning as the sun comes up. That's the first song I listen to every day to set my mind and my heart in the right place. This case, this USV ASTARITA, I'm sure that it was far more emotional for Jeanette than it was for all of us, and I would just like to just say a prayer for Jeanette very quickly, and everyone involved here. Heavenly Father, please come to us today. Give us all strength. Give us discernment. Give us wisdom. Give us strength. Give us the knowledge that we need to stand in righteousness and serve you properly. Take the venom from our hearts. Take the anger from our hearts and let us think as clearly as possible. We know that your hand is upon us, and we know that there have been many wonderful blessings that you've given to us. And I just want you to be with Jeanette and her family, and everyone involved here, everyone who's been a part of this, and everyone who has helped spread the message and spread the word of your love and your strength in all things. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
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 Well, USV ASTARITA, we know it's a disappointment, but, you know, like my wife said, sometimes things happen for a reason, and sometimes we can't see the reason, but a lot of information has come out in this trial that Jeanette was taking down, and I believe that a lot of that information will be able to be used in the civil case. I think that some of the facts, even before getting into the trial, like the body cameras and things like that, being ordered not to be worn, and of course that's going to, if I were sitting on the jury, that would almost be a closer for me in and of itself as one fact. So, you know, this thing isn't over yet, and if this is one, the funding that could go to Jeanette and I'm sure what she would, you think she was rough and going around the country and amazing before? Give her more of a budget to take care of that ranch and send her all over the country, speaking to groups of patriots all over the country. And I tell you what, the brush fires very well may fan across the nation. So anyway, that's my words on that. Your thoughts there, Rudy?
No, I did find that article that you talked about in the OPB.org. It says FBI requested no body cameras during Malheur leader's 2016 arrest. And I think it's the fourth paragraph down. It says the entire shooting was ruled justified. I don't understand that at all. But investigators could not account for 2 shots that took place during the incident. I wanted to share something with you, Tom. We got a phone call from Daniel Riley today. And, you know, just last Monday, we did a 2-hour American political prisoner program on Ed and Elaine Brown, Daniel Riley, and Jason Gerhardt. Of course, Daniel Riley and Jason Gerhardt supported Ed and Elaine Brown during the standoff that they had with the IRS. Daniel Riley said that after we did that show and we brought the Ed and Elaine Brown to the public's attention and asked people to remember them in prayer, write them letters to educate themselves about the case, and we also talked very highly about Daniel Riley because we think very highly of him. He said that FBI agents came and visited him in his prison, asked him to come to a special room where they roughed him up with tight handcuffs and told him that sovereign citizens are a growing menace in this country. And what could Daniel Riley tell them, the FBI, about sovereign citizens? Now, I don't identify as a sovereign citizen. I don't even think Daniel Riley identifies as a sovereign citizen. But you can tell that the FBI has a certain group on their radar, and they want to label us as such, and they think of us as an enemy. And let's not, beat around the bush about it. And that, I don't think that somebody has to set them straight on what America is all about and the founding principles of this country.
I'd love to give them a seminar on the sovereign citizen issue. I would do so at any time. And first of all, one of the things I was talking about earlier, I went to Wikipedia and went to the what they had, the coverage of the Oregon standoff on there, and of course the same anti-government, and then it called the Bundy sovereign citizens. Well, first of all, sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, but there are some people that think that no law applies to them. Now, if you stand for the Constitution, and you truly stand for the rule of law of the constitutional republic, first of all, God is sovereign. To me, God is sovereign. And to these people that are pushing this narrative, they're hardcore leftists, Southern Poverty Law Center, these type of people, they want that, they want to destroy Christianity. They go after Christianity. It's just hate, hate, hate. So they come up with these terms, labels, and then they legally classify them. It's in the Patriot Act, domestic terrorist, sovereign citizen. I go back to the congressional and the Senate, the CRS reports going all the way back. People who have listened to my show, we talked about the 14th Amendment and different things like that. We've had people that have stood there. How many of you out there know that I forget what southern state it was, but two of their representatives were forcibly kidnapped and forced to be sat in their seats so that they could ratify an amendment? Other states withdrew that. So there's a lot of skullduggery and a lot of fraud that has occurred over the course of the years that has never been brought to check. So when that happens over the course of 100 years, what you have is the end result is an out-of-control, bloated thing. And when we try and go back to the root of the problem, we're called all of these names. Well, our founders would have been considered sovereign citizen, domestic terrorists to these people. So, just consider the source when you hear this oxymoronic term.
No, amen, Tom. Amen. I happen to believe this thought that nobody is above the law, and I'm going to say something incredibly radical and extreme here. Nobody is above the law, and guess what? That means law enforcement, especially law enforcement. They should be held to a higher standard.
Yes, yes.
And you mentioned the Congressional Research Service. That reminded me, Tom. Did you guys know that I think it was in 2017, late 2017, there was a Congressional Research Service paper that was written, and it was written by some joker, and it was written to justify new legislation, to go about domestic enemies. And it talks about the terrorist attack on 9/11, but it says things have developed over time, that now we have enemies within inside America, and it identified by name, Tom. We have the article, and I'll send it to you if you haven't had a chance to read it. But it identifies by name as an example the Bundys and Schaefer Cox as examples of extremists with militia intent in American soil. It's absolutely ridiculous that this is being sent to our Congress members as examples of, domestic enemies. And that's how the FBI sees us.
What do these idiots not understand about not guilty?
Exactly. Amen to that. Amen to that.
And we have to eat this one today with ASTARITA, right? We have to swallow that. And they praise that. I saw the comments all in the article of all these leftists. They're praising it all. Thank God he was well, so were the Bundys found not guilty. You didn't praise that.
Right.
See, they have their narrative. We're sitting here in prayer, and we're trying to find a reasonable way forward. Am I sitting here saying, we need to go out and kill them right now? Come on. This is insane. These people they're delusional. It's like the Trump derangement syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's a derangement syndrome. It's an anti-patriot derangement syndrome.
It really is. It's a 62 pages. I just found it. I just brought it up, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. But it's written for and by the Congressional Research Service. It's 62 pages long. Some joker named Jerome P. Bejalapora wrote it, and it's called Domestic Terrorism, an Overview. And if you search for the word Bundy, it takes you to page 28, and it talks about anti-government extremists, and then it goes into, it mentions Ammon and Ryan Bundy by name. It mentions Schaefer Cox, and these kinds of papers are being sent to our congressmen, identifying them as extremists and domestic enemies, and it's just absolutely absurd. And so,
the anti-government guy who's running for governor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's good. There you go. There you go.
So
you know, you know what it is? It's not anti-government. It's anti-corruption in government. And if you stand up for anti-corruption and you don't believe that law enforcement should be above the law, all of a sudden you're an anti-government extremist. It's the most absurd thing in the world, and I don't know. It is going to take prayer, Tom. It's going to take a whole lot of prayer, because God Almighty is going to have to work a miracle to fix this mess.
Our appeal is to heaven.
Yes, appeal to heaven. What a wonderful flag that is. The Liberty flag, the Gadsden. I hear some people being critical over, the people protesting with the flag upside down, which is a signal of distress and all of this stuff. I like Chris Ann Hall. I believe in principles over party, and I think that we've lost our way. No doubt. The freedom is curtailed. This is not. We're not living in the same place that that I was raised to believe that our foundations were upon. So we need to work to get that back. I guess we really need to know who we are to do that. But we saw that even in that system, even in this corrupt system, what we saw in Oregon with 17 being found not guilty, that when you put it in the hands of the jury, there's still, I'm not ready to throw in the towel. I know other people may be ready to throw in the towel, but I'm just not ready to do that. I don't have faith in any man on this earth. The only man that ever walked this earth I have faith in is Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Yeah.
So when it comes to people with Trump and this and that, I have things that I like about him. I have things that I don't like about him. But what I say to them, because these the Make America Great Again pure Trumpers. Look, I'm all for it. I thank God he pardoned the Hammonds. Thank God the economy is in a better shape than it was. But at the same time, we have an unconstitutional, corrupt, non-gold standard Federal Reserve foreign banking corporation on our soil that has taken a stranglehold all over everything. And that's not ever talked about. The only ones that really talked about that were Ron Paul and I forget the other guy that took him to task. James Trafficant. God bless James Trafficant. Rest in peace. Yep. But I do have some good news. I do have a little bit of good news. I'm not a real big fan of Attorney General Sessions, but DOJ is cutting ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Amen.
We'll talk about that when we come back after a few words from our sponsors. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast.
Yeehaw! That's good news. Did y'all hear that? The Southern Poverty Law Center is being kicked to the curb by the DOJ.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yay! Oh yes, my bracelet says Charles Dyer, but it's black on blue, so it doesn't show up the best. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can hear you.
Hold on. We can hear you, Tom.
We're on live stream.
Property title claims of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure with the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of
Valerie Stewart,
and eviction after sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice.
Joseph,
we are a professional team of legal researchers
Kelly,
providing forensic mortgage audits. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws.
Of course, Mama Dyer.
We've been in business for 12 years without a
Applications
are free,
Jennifer
and we provide a free
Applegate.
title search to
Thank you
confirm
for
if your
joining the
mortgage
show. Be patient with these commercials. They're supposed to be turned down, but they weren't.
855, the number 2, keep it today.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people.
Jewel, welcome to
Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take
wait till I can live stream.
and how these two
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
Woo!
Yeah, you have to brush your hair,
on In
Tom.
Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Oh,
I agree, Tex. I agree.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com.
I'm going to put the 800 number in here.
My husband and
My
father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and
What
overall
is
health.
it? 800-313?
800, I'm putting it in there now.
Very good, very good.
Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think the supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Bear with us through this commercial. I think my producer probably got up to walk out and have some coffee or something. Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast. Resurrect the Republic. Tom Lacovara-Stewart, Rudy and Erin Davis. Tonight we're covering U.S. v. ASTARITA. You can go back and listen to the live stream for our first major discussion on that when this live stream and broadcast are over. But as it was announced before we went into the break, the DOJ is cutting ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center, says Jeff Sessions.
hallelujah.
Yeah, you can go to rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. It is our most recent article posted. A good portion of it, most of it was written by Alex Newmani of New American. Not that it hasn't taken long enough, but finally the hammer drops on the leftist anti-Christian hate-mongering group, the Southern Poverty Liars Center, as I call them, who paints any constitutional-loving Christian American a hater. Its actions have brought upon the American people persecution and violence. It is long past time that they have been put in their place. For the issues that I may have with A.G. Sessions, it may be the subject of much controversy with him, but it appears as though he hit the nail right on the head with this one. Now, to the article real quickly, shortly after the news broke that the Federal Bureau of Investigation still maintains some ties to the SPLC, Attorney General Jeff Sessions dropped the hammer, speaking in front of a mainstream Christian group of pro-freedom attorneys maligned by the SPLC. The Justice Department chief pledged that the DOJ would not be partnering with any organizations that unfairly slander or discriminate against Americans for their faith. Everybody, including the SPLC, knew exactly who Sessions was talking about, the SPLC, of course. So anyway, if you want to read that article, you can go to rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. It's rather lengthy. It gets into a lot of the things the SPLC has done, which is one of those terrorists that walked into the American Research Council and shot the place up, and then went back and said that he basically got his information from the SPLC.
Well, let me say this, Tom. If any organization that identifies Chris Ann Hall as a domestic terrorist is no friend of ours.
Yeah, well, no kidding there, right? I mean, God, a missionary's wife, a constitutional attorney, and an educator.
Incredible.
You don't get more salt of the earth than folks like that, man.
Amen.
I mean, really?
Amen.
Really? I mean, I'm on their list.
Oh,
So-
yeah. That's a feather in your cap, man.
Yeah, I'm on Right Wing Watch. I'm on SPLC. As soon as SPLC was announced that they were going to be teaming up with Facebook,
or was it YouTube or one of the other? It wasn't long until my main channel with millions of views.
That's right.
Tons of doubt, yeah. And finally, I got word back. It was 30 minutes after I did an interview with Clive and Bundy that they cut me short. They cut me out. They terminated me. But one of the reasons, one of the videos that they discussed. Now, I went when I was in New Jersey. I took a ride to Pennsylvania, and I did an interview with. He was in not only the Army, but after he got out of the Army, he re-enlisted in the Marines. He was twice decorated, war veteran, an active duty law enforcement officer, constable in the state of Pennsylvania, who had reached out to me because he wanted to do an interview, and he knew that I was probably somebody with mafia. He knew mainstream wouldn't handle it. Wait till you hear what he had to say when we get back on the other side. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN. Cut the mic down, Mike.
All right, that's the break at the end of the hour. Let me say this: if he was, Tom was talking about Donald Trump. If Trump doesn't deal with the fake Federal Reserve and this fake fiat fraudulent money system before he leaves office, then he won't have accomplished anything. I mean, you've got to deal with this fake fraudulent fiat funny money system before he leaves office. Otherwise, everything else, it'll just stay in the terrible state of government oppression and government tyranny that we currently have. If we don't deal with that, you've got to get rid of this fake money system. You got to go back to gold and silver, and you have to have just weights and balances. The problem is that the government can fund all of their evil agendas because they have unlimited money.
Power, control,
the technological issues that I have been trying to deal with have been just insane. Insane.
No, we're glad we made it tonight, and we can hear you. I don't hear any commercial in the background, so I guess they fixed that.
No, yeah. He turned it down.
Okay, good.
Because on the live stream, it's
Yeah, right.
So, folks, for those of you who may be just tuning in or whatever, we're on live stream on Facebook. Please do share it with your friends. Ken Scott, I see you, buddy. Buddy, I have to have Ken Scott on the show. He's a force to be reckoned with, that dude.
Amen.
Hello. I think that's Renee that just popped in. Hi, Renee. Go ahead.
I was saying, Tom, you were mentioning Trump and Trump supporters, and Trump's done a few good things, and there's a few things you don't agree with. But if he doesn't deal with this fake, phony fiat money system before he leaves office, I mean, there's basically nothing's going to change. He's got to do it, though. He's got to try to deal with it. I mean, if we don't fix that, ain't nothing going to change ever.
Well, see, that's the problem that I have. And when I try and tell people,
We're coming back. All right.
Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN, Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. Welcome back, folks. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast. Tom Lacovara-Stewart with Rudy and Erin Davis tonight. What I was talking about before, and I'll get to Chris. We have Chris in Las Vegas. Hang on the line there, buddy. We'll be right to you. What I was talking about was this interview that I conducted with this active duty constable in Pennsylvania who reached out to me and wanted to tell me a story about the Boston bombing, right? This is not my story. This was not my assertion. This was not my allegation. I drove to Pennsylvania with a very good friend, and we sat down and we did 3 interviews with this gentleman. I found him to be very lucid, very intelligent, and he was respected in his community. And he told me that a couple months before the Boston bombing took place, that a friend of his in Homeland Security had reached out to him, he wanted to get out. Now, what my friend was doing at the time, although he was an active duty law enforcement officer, he was trying to put together a company, a private, kind of like a mini Blackwater, but not really. But protecting the ships from the pirates, off the ships that go through Africa, and all the pirates and stuff that they have going on there. So he was trying to put together this private company to provide security for these ships. Anyway, this guy, he says, from Homeland Security reached out to him and said,
There's going to be something happening. He gave him, I think, a week window or 2-week window. I forget off the top of my head. It's going back sometime. But there's going to be a major event in a North American city. Don't believe anything you see. Don't believe anything you hear. He wanted to get out of Homeland Security. He wanted to get it far away from it. And, of course, then after the Boston bombing happened, it really shook. It shook him to his core because everything that he had been told, he said, was true. This is his story, right? So YouTube strikes it for a violation of their guidelines, whatever it is. And I said, okay, I wrote back to YouTube. I said, okay, well, you have videos of journalists going and interviewing a man who thinks he's a 6-year-old girl. He's obviously not a 6-year-old girl. So you also have an interview on YouTube of a guy who's gotten all this body modification who actually thinks he's a cat.
Oh.
Now, how is that any different than me as a reporter taking somebody's story? They're telling me something. You're saying it's not true. What are you saying? Okay, well, let the public decide. I'm just a reporter. And they still refuse to reinstate my channel. That was a channel termination based on that. And 30 minutes after the Clive and Bundy interview, I know what they did. They scanned down through the videos and they found bing, 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 terminate. 30 minutes after my interview with Clive and Bundy. I don't make this stuff up. Anyway, we have Chris in Las Vegas on the line. Chris.
Wow, Tom, I really apologize if I got road noise in the background. I'm on the freeway, but I thought it was important. First and foremost, I want to point out the egregious abuse of discretion, this miscarriage by injustice by this federally biased influenced court ruling, freeing ASTARITA, obviously a serious player, at least aiding and abetting and not being forthcoming about the information. The reason that no one asked those questions that should have been asked is because they already know the answers. The answers would be dangerous to their fraudulent story of trying to support the unsupportable. This is something they do perpetually. They leave out questions, they leave out points in the officer's statements that they don't want to address because they're dangerous to the prosecution's efforts by revealing and making it discoverable certain things they don't want discovered because it's dangerous to their false story.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there, buddy.
Now, a couple of things I want to point out. You talked about what you described, I think, as a nut that jumped out in front of the truck. I want to point out that nut, supposedly, was obviously a very experienced stuntman who had practiced that many times before he tried to effect it in front of Finicum's truck that day. There's no way any regular guy could just do it on the spur of the moment and got out of the way without practicing it over and over and over like a qualified stuntman would do. So they had planned this very carefully.
Well, that's an interesting observation.
Well, also, there was reportedly a tree shooting stand, a sniper stand, amongst the trees that had been built in that kill-box zone for the assassination of everybody in those trucks, the boy Finicum included. Mm-hmm. There's also been some suggestions that Jan Rudy, son of a kamikaze pilot who hated America, who has been a sniper with the FBI at Ruby Ridge, Waco, and maybe Waco 1 and 2, and who knows where else, was at that site that day and seen on video camera in the crowd by astute eye watchers who knew who he was. Secondly, the pistol that was planted whenever they did the cluster around the boy Finicum was a Ruger P89 DC decocker, 9mm, and the boy Finicum was a 45 or a 357 six-shooter man, not an automatic carrier. So, and that is the gun that showed up from the FBI's NCIC database. Now, I'm going to point out to you the NCIC database is now totally devoid of any value whatsoever because people like me, an innocent man, has been placed in there as a terrorist watch victim as 10 TWA.
Let me ask you a question for audience members that may not know you. Have you ever harmed anyone in any kind of offensive act in your life?
Absolutely not, Tom. Never knowingly. One time, many years ago, in my sleep, having a violent dream, I thought I was fighting with a guy who was attacking me, had him in a headlock, and I poked him in the eye. I woke up, it was my wife I had hit. I did not know it. I never hit women. I was totally crushed by doing that.
That happens.
I love her dearly. You know, and it was not my intention to do so. I'm going to tell you, in order to be a terrorist, you must complete some objective violent act, or at least a plan to carry out one, and I have never done so, although I have pointed out on Republic Broadcasting Network.org many times the cases of the Supreme Court of John Van Elk versus U.S., plus 17 other cases that the Supreme Court said that we have not only a right, but in fact a duty to repel unlawful arrest by any means deemed necessary or plausible when agents or actors are acting outside scope, sphere, or color of law and are becoming outlaws themselves because they don't have the lawful authority or the basis to be arresting you for what they pretend to be doing so.
We lose them?
We got you.
I was giving you an opportunity to respond if you wanted to.
Did we lose Tom? We might have lost Tom.
It's a possibility.
I had a hiccup. Over here. It happens.
Incidentally, Brother Rudy and Erin, I am so proud and so loving of your ministry and what you do for these incarcerated victims, much like myself, who have been continually stalked since 2012 by these quasi-imposter FBI agents that work here for the Metropolitan Police and the FBI Southern Nevada Joint Terrorism Task Force, posing as FBI agents, which is false personation under Title 18. I think it's 1712. I apologize. It is a crime to impersonate a federal officer. And this is really a criminal act. And to let this guy off the hook for being aiding and abetting at the very least, if not in fact conspiring with others to murder this man, and claiming he didn't know if he fired or didn't fire, and intentionally turning off their body cams so they wouldn't preserve incriminating evidence.
No, actually, it wasn't that they turned them off. They were ordered to get, the Oregon State Police were ordered by the FBI not to wear them.
Oh, absolutely. And if you don't wear them, it's because you know what you're doing is criminal, and you don't want any record to preserve the evidence. It's obvious.
Yes, absolutely.
With that, I'll get off your call and stop with the road noise, but unless you've got questions for me, I thank you very, very much, Tom. And we need to do a show exposing the criminality of the Las Vegas government, the state of Nevada itself, which is a rogue nation state.
Absolutely. Thank you for your call, Chris.
Bless you guys. Bye-bye.
Bless you too. Bless you too. And Valerie was talking a little bit about the. I think she was talking about something about in the chat room, the Clearfield Trust Company versus the United States. And it's also known as the Clearfield Doctrine. When governments have descended to the level of mere private corporations, very interesting for you. I recommend people Google Clearfield Doctrine and read up on that. Very interesting, and thank you for that, for reminding me about that, Valerie. Rudy, you guys have some prison ministry stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of information that you have to offer. I'm burnt. I am burnt out. I really appreciate Rudy and Erin Davis, and their ministry is just amazing. But coming into this broadcast, I have been working for 8 hours on a presentation for y'all tonight. And about an hour and a half before the broadcast, I went to go and upload it so that I could share it with you. And all of the audio was wiped off of it. And I just, when that happens, you're just beside yourself. But we do have some good news. Is there is a computer on its way here, a newer one, going to be delivered soon. So that'll be a big benefit. Amen. And any of you that want to donate to the broadcast, you can go to rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. And click on the PayPal button. We sure would appreciate your help if you like what you're hearing and you want it to keep on going. Also, don't forget you can call in at 1-800-313-9443. And I'm gonna kind of step back and give the reins over to Rudy now because he's got a lot of information for you. I'm sure.
Well, you bet, Tom. And we always have information. We can talk about political prisoners and I wanted to share, this whole thing about the FBI and just make sure that we put this in perspective, because I think we have to know who our enemy is. And Schaefer Cox gave an excellent speech about knowing who our enemy is. And we can have disagreements amongst each other. That's absolutely normal and natural. But at the end of the day, if I disagree with somebody on something and they think I'm silly, or if I think somebody else has a silly idea, I don't want to put you in prison. I don't want to take your money away, and I certainly don't want to take away your freedoms. And people that want to take away our freedoms or steal from us or kill us or put us in prison, they are our enemy. And I believe that we have an issue where we're dealing with people that want us to submit. And just like I want us to remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Tom, I'm sure when they were standing up and the king was getting really, really mad because they weren't bowing down, I'm sure they were surrounded by so-called good Christian 501c3 Christians that were saying, just bow down for a little bit because you're making the king really mad and you're going to reflect bad upon all of us. But you know what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said? They said, "O king, we believe that our Lord will deliver us, but even if our Lord don't deliver us, we ain't bowing down." And so I thought that's one of my favorite Bible verses. It's like we're not submitting. And I wanted to share this too. There's a quote from 1984. I'm sure you guys remember that book, George Orwell. And they're trying to torture Winston, right? They're trying to get him to submit. They're trying to get him to just go along with the state. And you guys might remember this scene in Winston's George Orwell 1984. It says to become sane, as opposed, there's these red flag laws, Tom. I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but many states have passed red flag laws. And if they deem you a sovereign citizen, or if they deem you, if a judge says that you've got some sort of mental problems, they can, just simply on the order of a judge, come into your house and take all your guns away.
I'm not sure they've approved those. I know they're looking at that.
I believe that some states have.
No, they're acting on. Some of these states are acting on them already.
Crazy.
Wow.
People definitely need to be aware of these red flag laws that some of these states are passing, because they will use that to identify you as some sort of mental problem because you have this passion about freedom. And I want to remind everybody what happened in 1984. To become sane in the perspective of the state, Winston must see through the eyes of the party. O'Brien holds up 4 fingers, and he asks Winston, "How many do you see?" And Winston says, "I see 4 fingers." And then O'Brien says, "If the party says there are 5, how many are there?" So it's like they want us to answer the question the way the state answers the question, even though our God-given brain tells us there's 4 fingers. If they say there's 5, we better answer 5. But some of us believe that truth is important, and we believe that our God-given ability to reason and to see the world through our biblical faith, we ain't going to answer the question the way they say that we should answer the question. And so, and if somebody answers the question different than me, I don't want to take away their freedom. But I'm telling you, the FBI, even the parole decisions that many of our prisoners go through, and many of our prisoners we believe are innocent. David Hinkson, Scott Fall, Yori Von Call, Schaefer Cox, Jeffrey Winehouse. When they go before the parole board.
Charles Dyer, amen to that. Amen to Charles Dyer. I know we have Mother Dyer out there, and praise God for her. May we all have mothers like her that would stand up for us like she's standing up for Charles. But when you go before the parole board, do you know the number one thing they're looking for is remorse and submission. You got to somehow cry and talk about how the state has rehabilitated you and you're so sorry for the crime. Well, the truth of the matter is, what if you did not commit any crime? What if you're innocent? You ain't going to be showing any remorse.
Yeah, that's like in we watched that movie last night, the Central Park 5 boys. They went up for parole several times, and because they wouldn't show remorse, they weren't guilty. The perp came forward afterwards and had DNA proof that he raped the jogger.
Right.
But they wouldn't show remorse, so they wouldn't let them out. And the same thing's happening with our friend Scott Fall.
Yeah.
And Free Laser.
Oh, Free Laser has a parole nightmare. We're gonna do a program, Tom, on Free Laser come Monday. And he's been denied parole time and time again. It was a self-defense shooting. He should have never gone to prison. 35 years. And the parole board has identified him. They've picked him out of all the prison inmates because he's a bright, shining light for Christ. And it's because he doesn't show remorse, because he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong. And, that's what they're going to expect from us. This FBI and this state, this tyranny that is enveloping us, loss of freedom of speech. You lost your YouTube channel. How crazy is that? That you got a YouTube channel putting out news programs, interviewing people with their story, and they take down your freaking channel. If that isn't enough to get somebody angry, I don't know what is. I'm angry about it. It wasn't even my channel, Tom. But it's like they are definitely closing down on our speech. They have a narrative they want to push to the masses. Yeah. And if you don't push that narrative, you're going to be shut down and taken off the watering hole of our society, which currently is YouTube. But I pray for other platforms to open up and God to open up another way. And I don't believe this is our destiny. I don't believe our destiny is to live under tyranny.
No, he is kind of opening up another door for us. I'm not ready to fully disclose, but there are, because I don't want to give them a heads up.
Amen, amen.
But we're looking into developing our own platform of hosting content, and I think that's it's kind of important. You have your own creative control. You know, I tried going over to Mike Adams' Real.video, and it makes it very difficult because I don't know whether they're just swelling so quickly or there's some issues there. But I posted the presentation I did with one of the Bundys, and it took a full day before it was uploaded. And you know, if I'm doing a report like breaking news or something like that, who wants to wait a day, right? You know, but I mean, it is starting new. But you know, there's BitChute, there's Steemit. Well, I have a Steemit account, and everybody's swearing this free speech. Steemit, DTube, right? Yep. Okay, I go to upload a video at DTube a couple weeks ago, and it wouldn't upload. So I tried it from a different browser, wouldn't upload. I just tried doing it the other day, wouldn't upload. I see other people's videos out there. It's almost like, you know, I don't know, maybe because I got in a tangle with the federal government, maybe I'm on some sort of tech list, you know, button push or something.
No, I don't know, Tom. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We're going to be persistent. Don't, you know, grow not weary in well-doing, Tom. We're going to be praying for you. But have you heard of oneway.com? I speak to a guy by the name of Derek who is trying to get that platform going, and he's a good Christian man. So
I am. I'm on that platform.
Very good.
I haven't spent, you know, just because of my limitations technologically right now, all of my stuff when I was arrested by the FBI and in New Jersey, all of my I was traveling. I was on my way back to Florida. So all of my computers, all of my equipment, everything's in Florida, my Harley Davidson, everything. So, and I can't go to Florida while I'm at the phone story. We'll be back, folks. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast on RBN.
Let me tell you how it's gonna work, kid. You work hard like your parents both did. Everything you earn by breaking your backs, we're gonna redistribute when
I thought he said that Mrs. Dyer wanted to talk, but I think he just meant that she was in the chat room.
Oh, yeah.
How do we know if there's somebody calling in?
I need to see. Yeah, you're right.
And I read the number out. Anybody who wants to call in tonight and chat, the number is 1-800.
Are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims.
1-800. Oh, I have it on paper while I'm looking there.
Since closing the loan, it may be
1-800-313-9443. And I think our governor here in Texas, he did look at that red flag law, and then a lot of people went and said no. And then he said, don't bother bringing it to my desk because I'm not going to pass it.
Well, praise God for that.
Yeah. But in Washington State, they did pass it, and they took a guy's gun.
Let's be very clear. This red flag laws, you guys got to educate yourself about that, because they're going to use that to identify constitutionalists. They're going to label you as a sovereign citizen, whether you call yourself that or not. If you have more, we got a phone call. If you have more than like 2 guns, you're going to be like a domestic terrorist that's, passionate about guns or something. And they're going to use these red flag laws to put you in a category and label you with a mental condition, and they're going to send in cops to try to confiscate all your guns. There's already like examples of them doing this. And so we got to put a stop to these red flag laws. It's a blatant attempt to circumvent the Second Amendment.
Jen Dyer just said, the older I get, the shorter life sentence looks.
I think that's your girl.
That's funny. Oh, Renee!
That's your girl, right?
Yeah, Renee's gonna call in. You guys ready for Renee?
Are we hung up here?
You might turn your volume down just a little bit when she comes on, but she is a smart cookie.
Since I've been listening to RBN. Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that?
I doubt she does Facebook.
How would I survive without it?
So I'm just taking pictures of my bracelets. All these guys are free, praise God. But these guys are still locked up. Maybe I should put the locked up ones on one hand and the free ones on the other one. Except it's very hot and sweaty.
It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge
from
20, 30, 40,
South Dakota.
50,
South
Dakota.
Dakota.
$100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara-Stewart, joined by my fellow hosts, not guest hosts anymore, but my fellow hosts, Rudy and Erin Davis. Year of Jubilee with one E, like the King James Version of the Bible.com. Anybody who hasn't been to that site needs to be. We need to, every morning when I listen to How Great Thou Art, I actually sit there and I flip through their previous calls with political prisoners from the previous day, and it's just such a wonderful thing to have somebody that's fighting so hard. We have Renee in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Renee, you're on Resurrect the Republic.
Hi, Renee. Welcome.
Hi. Well, I have been fighting my local governments here in South Dakota, in the Rapid City area and the Sioux Falls area through the federal courts. Well, I filed all my stuff. I'm not a lawyer, by the way, and I've been filing all my own stuff, and I've been writing it very well, and they don't like that, of course, that you're throwing the truth at them. And they're all claiming immunity. And, of course, the judge is backing this. So now I have to file an appeal, and I never even got a court case. I never even got a court date out of it. And I already have to file an appeal already.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah, because they all claim they have this judicial immunity. They have immunity. Everybody has immunity. They're all immune to this, and it's against the Constitution, and that was half my paper is writing out that they do not have immunity, and, of course, that's claiming what they all have. It doesn't matter what my case is, they all have immunity, and so, as the Constitution, part of our thing is that to take out corrupt people, there is no immunity. Nobody's above the law.
Amen.
But they've written it now so that they're all above the law,
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to look up my two court cases, my numbers are 18-4037 and 18-4048. And they're in the District of South Dakota Southern Division. Do you have
something to write with?
No, I don't.
All right, Renee, do me a favor and leave your email or your contact with my producer before you hang up the phone.
Okay.
And I'll shoot you over an email if you send me your email, and that way you can send me whatever you have via email.
Yes, I would be glad to send you what I have and have people look it over. I don't mind being scrutinized, but I already have to figure out how to write an appeal, and I've never even written one. So I got less than 30 days to do that. So,
oh my!
And they've come back already. So yeah, I got probably 20 days left to write it, and I haven't even started. So.
Oh my! Well,
anybody had? Yeah. So I think I might be able to put you in touch with somebody who might be able to help you with that.
He was on the phone earlier. He was on the air earlier. Chris in Las Vegas. He's a good guy, and he's a Christian, and I'm sure that if he couldn't do it, he probably would be able to steer you in the right direction. So you make sure that you leave your email with my board op.
Yes, and I do have a section here that God pretty specifically gave me, and I couldn't write it fast enough. That's in my paperwork, and I really should read this part sometime. And it's like, you know, I really haven't went through this in a while, but basically, you know, they claim that first off, no harm equals no crime. You know, that's the thing, too, that people forget about is no harm equals no crime. All sorts of things are against people when they haven't done any harm at all, you know. But yet the state is guilty of crime all the time, and yet they are never held accountable, you know.
Yes, yes.
And that's one of the biggest points I can make to everybody. But basically, lawyers, judges, and statesmen, they all support the New World Order. And, you know, what we've got to do is, like somebody said, is hack at the roots. And that's what I'm basically trying to do here on my own state. If everybody in every state started doing this, we'd have a whole lot less problems. People have to turn the tables on these people. We have to turn the tables big time because they're all ready to basically kill us all off. I mean, the due things in California, all the due fires, they're all started with, you know, direct energy. And, you know,
I've heard a lot of that.
It's a land grab.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to look into it. But one thing that I do remember, and this is, you know, this is a little bit more, you know, boots on the ground type of thing. But some years back, Anthony J. Hilder, who is a friend of mine, he had a stroke. He's a filmmaker, and he went hard after the New World Order. He did a couple things with Ted Gunderson, was a good friend of his, a former FBI agent, the agent in charge, special agent in charge of the L.A. field office, who you know, blew the lid off of all kinds of stuff. But Anthony Hilder went out to California to a place that had a fire, and these folks were trying to rebuild. They had a little ravine that they had to cross to get to their property. There was a bridge there that burnt, so they were just going to rebuild the bridge. And then all the, you know, code officials and all that came out, and they had to do a biological survey, and they had somebody reviewing and all that. But the backstory to that was that there was a car that was seen going and throwing stuff out the window to start the fire that caused the damage to their property. That now they were requiring them to pay this obscene amount of money that made it cost prohibitive. This is Agenda 21, and now we have somebody else that's just caught in California starting fires. Well, we'll be back, folks. If you want, you can hang on the line. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast. Be right back.
You know, one of the things that Renee was talking about was the prosecutors and the judges act with prosecutorial immunity. And that's part of the problem with this criminal justice system. A lot of times you'll hear President Trump have these press conferences regarding prison reform. And all this prison reform is he talks about getting the prisoners a good job after they get out of prison.
Yeah, he wants more taxpayers.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe they shouldn't have gone to prison in the first place. And that's the problem. It's not that we need to find them a good job after they get out of prison. We need more than prison reform. We need criminal justice reform. And these prosecutors and judges operate with immunity. And what Renee said on this phone call, that when she dialed in, is absolutely right. There's one book called... oh, hold on. We can hear you, Tom. We can hear you.
We have some comments coming in. Jeff Thompson, U.S. State is run by the Grand Master Mason of it. David, I used to consider writing appeals as the next impossible. Too many rules so that they can use any number of missteps as the reason you failed. Mrs. Mama Dyer, who, by the way, my mom passed away. I was talking with Mrs. Dyer about this, and you know, she's agreed to be my one of my surrogate mamas.
Oh, praise God.
Along out there with Evelyn Johnson. Evelyn also is a surrogate mama. I hope she's listening tonight too. It's amazing, you know. I lost one mama and I gained two, and the Lord is wonderful for that. Blessed me with that. And, my mom would be very, very happy. So we have okay. So no victim, no crime. Yeah, I get that. And by the way, very interesting. You know, it's been a little while since I looked into the Clearfield doctrine, and Valerie had put me back onto that yet. And I advise anybody to Corruption Society. They have a piece out on the Clearfield doctrine that I looked up. just as we were going to commercial. Very interesting stuff. We may share that when we go back live again. Those of you guys who want to call in, 1-800-313-9443. We're in a commercial break on the show at Republic Broadcasting. If you're tuned in just recently, you're listening to the Resurrected Republic radio show. So anyway, we'll wait a few seconds. We'll come back in shortly. You have anything you want to share with your live streaming folks there, Rudy?
Yeah, no, you bet. I don't know if Renee's going to be on the line when we get back, but what she said about the prosecutors and judges experiencing immunity, that's a huge problem we got to take care of. And there's been many books written about it. Sidney Powell wrote one called License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. There's another one about what they did to Senator Ted Stevens up in Alaska called Not Guilty, the unlawful prosecution of Senator Ted Stevens. In both cases, the prosecutors got away with all kinds of hell, and they never got held accountable. That's the problem, and Renee nailed it when she called in and told us that.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
You know, President Trump had that round table about prison reform this week, and one of the guys at the table, one of the governors, I think it was, said that one of the best ways to improve the prison system is through ministry work.
Amen.
Yes. All right, we'll come to that.
Welcome back. Resurrected Republic. Truth Radio broadcast. I'm your host, Malheur, joined tonight by Rudy and Erin Davis of Year of Jubilee with one E, like the King James Version of the Bible.com. That's yearofjubilee.com. You can also go to our blog. Of course, you guys know that we have resurrectedrepublic.com. We're having some troubles with that. I haven't been using it in a couple months. So we have a blog spot that I have been using throughout the course of time. It's rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. You can find the links to our archives, our shows, other content from other people that we respect. We have a news aggregation page that you can go and we have to update that and throw some new news links on there, but all kinds of interesting information there. And you can also hit that PayPal button. Send us a little love if you like our work and you appreciate what we're doing. You can also call in if you want to leave a comment. 1-800-313-9443. So, what's up next?
I think the militia needs a new PR campaign because they kept referring to Lavoie as the leader of a militia, even though he wasn't in the militia, and they were trying to poo-poo the name militia, but we need some really creative media folks out here to come up with a new campaign for the word militia.
Well, they did the same thing with Schaefer Cox and Brass Quellar. I mean, they tried to tie those individuals to the militia and call them domestic terrorists. So I agree. We need to like revamp that word and reclaim that word for the good side because Southern Poverty Law Center, they did a number with it.
Well, the progressive communist ideology. If just read the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Read the Communist Manifesto. I urge anybody to actually read that. They weren't holding any. They weren't holding any grudge. These people made themselves clear. And not only that, but these same people, Larry Graywall, penetrated them, and he was reporting to the FBI. He said he was sitting at a table with a bunch of intellectuals. These people were Columbia law students, professors. They were professionals. These are academics that were sitting there. And they were talking about literally the extermination of millions of people that wouldn't toe the communist line. And these people, he said, they were dead serious, and they have penetrated into American universities, into schools and teaching positions because they knew, Stalin knew. He said, give me one generation and blah, 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 blah. This is what they did. They didn't go after all of the highest important parts of the government in and of themselves only, which they did when Obama came in and if any of you know about the SES, well, he put them in positions of bureaucratic power, but for decades, they have been penetrating the schools. This is where you get all of this LGBTQ, XYZ, FY, whatever else, You don't necessarily, if you're a boy, you can be a girl. You're a girl, you can be a boy. They're normalizing delusion. And look, these young children are impressionable. If you would have told me at 6 years old that I was a Confederate soldier, I would have believed you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. I would have been, okay, what do we do? You know what I mean? These kids are impressionable. And when they do things that these progressives, what that makes them happy, kids want to please the people that dote over them. And that's what they're doing. This is indoctrination. And it's scary because they're normalizing what was such a small fraction now there is gender dysphoria. There are people that feel that there's also people that feel that they're animals. I don't know if you've ever heard of pony play, but I saw this video that I cannot get out of my mind now of a bunch of people acting like ponies. I don't know if you guys saw that. I can't get it out of my mind. It burned. Anyway, so you have people that think that they're things that they're not. But I compare people with gender dysphoria, and I don't mean this to insult them. I compare them to schizophrenics. Because schizophrenics, I had one of my girlfriends when I was in high school, her aunt was schizophrenic, and in the morning, I was staying with her grandparents for the summer, and she was staying in her house, but I was working for her grandfather, who was a psychiatrist, by the way, and she would come down from her third-floor bedroom, and she would say, I am Napoleon Bonaparte. Where is my army? She would actually really think she's Napoleon. But the psychiatrist, which was her stepfather, would tell me, don't play into her delusions because it only makes it worse. It solidifies this false belief, and it's not healthy for her, right? So I look at gender dysphoria the same way. Why do I have to recognize, if I don't recognize what you are, then I'm denying your existence? I'm not denying your existence. You're standing right in front of me. I obviously see you. I don't want to harm you. I'm not a threat to you. And my words are not violence. I'm sorry about your fifis. God.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
You know, Tom, I see this as an agenda. Everything to me, I always bring everything back to agendas being pushed forward by the New World Order for, just world domination and tyranny and oppressive of the human spirit. And it all goes back to the Federal Reserve. And, Pastor Stefan Broden in South Dallas, he breaks, how society is organized. And he mentions we got the news media, we got academia and universities, we have entertainment, we have government. Of course, BLM, ATF, FBI, IRS, CIA. You got businesses, the Fortune 500 companies, and you got churches and family. And the New World Order has pretty much controlled everything except for family, and they're working on the family unit. They're working on destroying the mother and the father and the children. But all the other areas of society that I just went through, they got them. And they can use their news media, their academia, their Fortune 500. I can tell you that in Fortune 500 companies in America today, management meets, and I was a part of this because I used to work for a Fortune 500 company called Cisco Systems, and they met and they gave 30 minutes to this United Kingdom, grizzly bear, sugar bear guy that talked for 30 minutes about his, homosexuality and transgenderism, and the management of Cisco Systems said we should no longer use the phrase or the words husband and wife. No. We should use the terms partner. So we don't offend the transgenders and the homosexuals within our company. And that's what the Fortune 500 companies are pushing. The Ciscos, the Googles, the Apples, they're all pushing this sort of thing. And if you don't go along with the program, you're not going to get promoted. You're not going to get a six-figure job. And patriots are usually poor as church mice. We're running around trying to advocate for the Constitution and liberty and freedom. But, the people that go along with the flow, it does pay to go along with the flow while you're working for them. But ultimately, they're whoring out their soul is what they're ultimately doing. And I think we should just stay on the side of God and freedom and liberty. I think we're blessed with liberty. It comes from God. It's a blessing from God. And I don't want to give up my birthright.
Yep. I'm putting my my email, by the way, Valerie, who's on live stream right now, I'm putting my email in there. You can send me over an email and I'll send you the link that I was talking about. At Anti-Corruption Society. We do have some callers on the line. Mike in Kentucky. Mike, you're on.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey.
Good evening. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been dealing with being targeted, for technology problems for a long time. But Dave Hinkson, you mentioned Dave Hinkson.
You bet.
Was that the guy that was on shortwave with the lawyer named Mike for a long time back in the 90s that took calls, I think, during the height of the...
Yeah.
He came out of Las Vegas, and during the height of the Freedom of Montana, that they called in live on his show.
I think he hosted a program called Worldwide Christian Radio. Lou Epton was his co-host. Rod Remlin was his co-host for a while. He was just before Bill Cooper. I talk to him fairly regularly. He's a genius. I believe he's like a modern-day Nikola Tesla. I call him America's most provably innocent political prisoner, and it is an absolute travesty what they have done to David Hinkson.
Wow. So, anyway, the night that he had the Freeman call in live from their Justice Township, I had just called in on his show mere minutes before that, and I was running a cassette tape. I have it on cassette tape where I called in on that show, and I have to wonder if my involvement back then, and even before that, I was asked to videotape stuff for the Kentucky state militia with, oh man, I can't remember the guy's name. He just passed away a few years ago. He was the head of it, and him and Gatewood Galbraith. Remember Gatewood Galbraith tried to run for governor a few times on the hemp ticket, basically, here in Kentucky. Woody Harrelson came in here and planted a hemp seed, and got arrested trying to break the law on that, take it through court. Anyway, they had a group called Take Back Kentucky, Norm Davis and all that, and they asked me to do some video production for them. And I have had some interesting issues with technology. I stayed off computers as long as I could handle it, But
yeah,
I documented numerous things I've documented with Facebook and YouTube, hit count suppression and things like that. If we could ever get a class action lawsuit going.
You bet. Yeah. This shadow banning is absolutely terrible. They have ways of making your videos not play properly, and you don't get the views that you should get. I mean, what YouTube has done to free speech, they should be brought up on treason charges, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because I think that we've had this discussion about Congress shall make no law suppressing free speech, but private corporations can blah 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 blah. Well, you know what? Ma Bell was a private corporation too. That didn't hold water for them. And I'll even go one further. Google would not be Google if it weren't for the subsidies and the tax breaks and all of that. So they're partially funded by the public to get them where they were. So if you and they have government contracts with the Pentagon. So you can't take money from the taxpayers and then claim private status that you can violate the free speech protections of the U.S. Constitution. It's just not right. I have been saying for a while, I'm really hoping that we can get a class action lawsuit going against them just to put some pressure. And if I could get 20 people, I'd be happy. Even win or lose, it doesn't matter. I want to get it into court and get it up in front of a judge and make that argument. I mean, Google is accepting contracts. Google owns YouTube. They're accepting contracts from the Pentagon right now for drone technology, all kinds of stuff. And that's just scratching the surface of what Google and the government are in bed with.
Wasn't Facebook built on public money, like with the CIA?
Yes.
There's a $1 trillion lawsuit, I believe, right now because these guys went in to help AT&T fix their POP3 mail server back in the mid-'90s, and the software that they developed was used by just about every and it was a violation, of their copyrights. It was used to develop social media. And this lawsuit's they've tried to kick it out several times, and they keep getting it back in courts. It's because the value estimated is probably $1 trillion. But now AT&T developed something called Hancock software, which is also somewhat mimicking social media, and they did that so they could track all of your contacts and your attributes on any of these plain old telephones. I have a Time magazine that was a limited marketing. It was released in certain markets. I got mine up in Columbus, Ohio, but it was only distributed. It was a special edition. It had a theme in the advertising of Gulliver's Travels, and no matter where he went, his phone would ring. The closest phone to him would ring, and I don't know exactly how that supposedly worked, but, you know, it showed Gulliver tied down to the beach, and this little Lilliput demonic-looking devil handed him a red phone. I mean, it was it was pretty spooky to me. That was in like 1995 when I saw that. But what a lot of people don't realize is I think even going back to cordless phones and probably most speaker phones and maybe even the plain old landline, they could have those things listening to you, and with voice print technology and voice recognition technology, they could be, way back in the early 90s, even, and of course cell phones they were tracking within 10 feet way back then, but in the
This morning I was talking about a dentist, right? And they say that this is all for marketing purposes, but we know that there's much more to it. I was talking about needing a dentist. I go to YouTube, and I'm scanning through one of the promoted videos that popped up. You know, I get one promotional usually when I open up on my phone, and there's a promotional ad for dentistry here local to where I am. The other day I was looking for a boom microphone to do the podcast, and I was talking about it. And sure enough, I went to YouTube, went to sit down outside, and I'm scanning through, and there's an ad for a boom microphone. It's like, you know, that's happened to me like 4 times in the past week and a half, and I could see maybe the dentist thing was like maybe a coincidence, but it seems like it's first driven by profit, but then behind the scenes most probably abused. All right, we have some other callers.
I think social engineering as well. Real quick though, social engineering and shadow banning can happen with the phones. You call somebody, you think you're hearing it ring, it doesn't ring on their end.
Right.
You call somebody, you get fast busy signal, and they're not on the phone all the time, right? So I mean, this is not limited to just MySpace and Facebook and that kind of technology. When you talk about that, I thought, you know, it's not just Facebook that the shadow ban can occur on.
Let me quickly
go.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Thank you,
Mike.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And let me throw in real quick, Tom. It's not just freedom of speech being limited for us out here in the free world, so-called free world, but they're building secret CMU prisons, and they're putting inspirational prisoners like Schaefer Cox and Russell Landers in a secret prison where they're limiting their voice. And then not only that, when people like Erin and I or Angela Clemens or others start to communicate with these prisoners, they ban us from communicating. So there is limits on freedom of speech everywhere, including the prison system. They cannot have these prisoners have a voice, but we're going to fight them every step of the way.
Yes. All right, we have 2 more callers up. Danielle in South Carolina. Danielle, you're on.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I just, Mike right there, he was on point. Hey, Erin. He was so on point as far as what's going on with YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, if you guys will do some research into Facebook was LifeLog before Facebook actually started up. It was a DOJ program to track everybody's movement, everything that they did, everything that they like, everything that they like, no matter where, like who you're related to, like all of this stuff. This was the program for the Department of Justice to make sure what we are doing, to keep track of everybody who is here. But the sad thing is that they have built it off of our backs. They got rich selling our data. Do not forget that. That's what I wanted to get on here and say. Do not forget that this is built off of us. This is our town square now. And the fact that, they have done what they have done to us, they sold us out. They took every scrap of data that they possibly could, and they sold it to the highest bidder. And a matter of fact, that is exactly how Mark Zuckerberg and anybody who's related to this Facebook program has gotten billions of dollars off of us. And, we really do. We have to stand up. We're going to continue to fight this fight because this is what God has called us to do. Amen. We will shine the light on this darkness that has, it's just everywhere now.
Does anybody remember what year Facebook launched? Just out of curiosity. Does anybody remember?
I think it was 2003 or 2004, somewhere in there, right?
It's really interesting because I'm looking at
and an article, it's quite an old article from Wired that says the Pentagon canceled its so-called LifeLog project, and it's right around the time I think that Facebook went public.
It was seriously, it was the day that LifeLog went offline, Facebook started up. That was exactly the time. And, the social engineering aspect of this is exactly what we are dealing with. They have, every click, every like, every, even with these extra emojis, the love, the laughing, the wow, the crying, the angry emojis, these things, they use them against us. And in order to, program us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that dopamine hit. And these people that come out who have set up this Facebook program, they knew exactly what they were doing the entire time. And we have fed into it. And now they're shutting us down because we're using their tools against them, because we have figured out the process. And so, just like they use the Hegelian dialectic against us, we have figured this out through the grace of God, of course, because this is where it always comes back to. God has opened up so many people's eyes to what is actually happening, right? And so we who are awake and aware, who stay rooted in the rock, who is Jesus Christ, we know what they are doing. And we're going to use this tool against them the way that they have used it against us. Amen?
Amen. And Erin, I think she just shot over to me 2004. Guess when this Wired article that says Pentagon kills LifeLog project is February 4th, 2004.
Let me read Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Big Brother's watching us, and guess what? We're watching him too.
We're watching him back.
And I want to throw this out here real fast because I know you got another caller on the line as well. Yeah. I just want to say Ephesians 5:11 says, have no part of their unfruitful works of darkness, but rather we are to expose them, and that's exactly what we're doing. We are all on the same team, and I love you guys so very much. Thank you so much for what you do. I love you guys so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Love you too. Thank you for that call, Danielle, so much. Sovereign Man, you're up. Sovereign Man.
Hi, Sovereign Man.
Greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations, my friend.
I just want to say I would love to be joining you guys on live stream on Facebook, but guess what? But I'm not going to contribute to the unfruitful works of darkness.
That's because you have your face in the real book. You've got your face in the real book.
I'm not getting the cookie. I'm not getting the cookie, and I'm not going to submit to all their,
Oh, you don't need to. We have millions of people out there who are on it, and we're on it because we're going to use. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and the Lord will provide tools for us to do what we need to do. We're not like. I understand where you're coming from.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry. I'm not letting Facebook into my phone and taking all my contacts and all my data and all that. I get
it. No, I get it. But when I'm working, what we're doing is just a little bit different than what you're doing. I understand where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring this message to the people that are trapped in that world. I hate it. I hate this technology. I do. I really do. But there's a lot of people out there, and they need to hear the truth. And once you plant that seed like into a crack of the concrete, a little tiny little seed, that seed can bust that concrete right apart. That's how wonderful the God's creation is that he can create. He's created a little seed that can bust apart the hardest concrete. So I don't disagree with you.
Hey, let me throw this in there too. We want to give a voice to the voiceless. And when it comes to incarcerated, unjustly imprisoned brothers and sisters in the Lord, I could go through the whole list. You know who they are, Sovereign Man. I want as many people to know about those men and women as possible. And if God opens up a door, we need to walk through that door and to share the stories of our unjustly incarcerated brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But what we do is different. It's not in a private capacity like you're operating in a private capacity. We're operating in more of a public capacity when it comes to using these platforms to bring the word of Jesus Christ and bring the word of the truth to masses of people who have been indoctrinated and enslaved. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a different situation, but I certainly do not disagree with you on your position there. You know, I don't blame anybody for feeling that way.
The brain improvement tools, they've mapped the mind. These things are very well advanced. And when the 5G network comes online, they're going to be in real big trouble.
No, it's social engineering.
I'm real worried about that.
Remember, the previous caller said they are trying to social engineer us through shadow banning and manipulation of mass crowds. And I believe they're trying to do that. But when we put the word of God in our heart, we don't get influenced by their devilish methods.
Yeah. I don't think you can use evil for good. It's just dismissed.
Well, it's a method of communication, sovereign man. I mean,
yeah. But I can, because you know what? I've spoken to people on Facebook and brought them to the Lord Jesus Christ. So, you know, you just have to roll on with that. Thank you for your call, sovereign man. No, we really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the morning, Rudy.
Okay, God bless you, brother. We'll see you tomorrow. Amen.
All right, Mike, do you get my message? I hope Mike's still there. All right, we're gonna close out with a prayer and just a little tiny bit of music. Go ahead and roll it. Dear Lord, be with us, protect us, guide us, give us the strength we need. In Lord Jesus' name, amen. Hannah, take it away.
Amen.
Consider all the worlds thy hands have made.
God bless all of you tonight out there.
I see the
love you.
stars.
We care about you.
I hear the rolling thunder, thy path throughout the universe.
Nothing is stronger than the power of the Lord.
Amen.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee.
King James, baby.
Amen.
How great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees, when I look down from lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel the gentle
Thank you for joining us at Resurrect Republic Truth Radio broadcast tonight. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara-Stewart, joined by Rudy and Erin Davis. God bless all of you tonight. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. God bless. Bye-bye.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God.
All right. Praise God. That was incredible. I want to end the video with one Bible verse that I think is good for everybody. It's Joshua 1:9. Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. God bless you guys. And the recipe for unity is, if Christ be lifted up, he will draw all men unto him. God bless you guys. Have a great night.
Good night.